Hey everybody, welcome to the session. I just want to start it off, and I'm basically here to talk about different ways to build fun learning spaces, and we're going to compare. We have a couple of goals. We're going to compare different online learning spaces, and we're going to talk about tools, open source tools that you can use to build good online learning experiences, because there's a lot of crappy ones out there. I love MOOCs because I can officially say I have dropped out of every Ivy League school in the country. I've dropped out of Stanford, I've dropped out of MIT, I've dropped out of Harvard. And those are the most successful people in the world, are those who have dropped out. So I can officially say I'm a college dropout of every single Ivy League. So when we're talking about learning, I just need I need a word for my slideshow. Somebody give me a word, a noun, something. No, like a farm or bushes or birds, like any kind of, I just need a word. Hive, okay. Or is it done? Or Firefox? So what I'm doing now is putting the word hive, and I'm going to get my 20 slides. I have no idea what my slides are going to be. So I'm going to hit that start. Let me just go back to Chrome real fast, and then I'm going to hit, 1 second, share my screen. Yeah, isn't that a little crazy there? Yeah. All right, so Hive, are you ready? Please work in mode. All right. So I'm doing a pizza flicker. I get 20 slides. Each slide will advance in 15 seconds. I have no idea what the slides are going to be. I just went and asked you folks for you gave me a softball one with Hive, at least, because that's a good metaphor. But when you're thinking about teaching, it's a lot like improv. That you have to be able to move on your feet. And I don't think it's any different, because you have to look at it at the big picture. You are serving other nests. You want to grow other nests. That's your ultimate goal with online teaching, is to make people self-programmable so they can design their own kinds of learning spaces. And that requires a community and a garden that you truly have to nurture if you're able to accomplish this. And then sometimes you have to learn to pass the mic as an online teacher, and that's the hardest thing to do. In the best kind of online classes, you're not in charge. The learners are. And so I want to teach you today on how to pass the mic to your learners and to really be able to infiltrate the classrooms and have them get that hive mentality. It's a good metaphor for learning. Because otherwise, there are people trying to attack the hive. They want the honey. And we have to think about, how do you build this idea that if Mozilla is going to survive, I think education has to be key. I think it's just as important as Firefox in the browser. I think it's the most critical mission right now is the Mozilla Learning Networks and the education around that. And we have to be able to open that pathway for other people to join. And that's where I look at leading as learning. I believe that a good teacher is a leader, and a good leader is a teacher. And if we're going to be able to push the cart forward and move to a new kind of place where we're not just a supermarket of learning, but a mall of passions, where people can go to the stores that they choose. But we need to manage those stores, and we have to build those stores. And each one of those stores can be where we go to learn. Because nests need protection, and they need to grow. And the best ones, the best learning communities, and we're going to look at 5 today, are actually the ones that you don't see, that just kind of hide in the trees and can just take off. Those are always the best kind of learning spaces that we are really going to look at. But at the same time, you have to be able to create the environment of open. And to do that, I call that reflecting out loud. When you're teaching online, you have to model being a learner. And your students or your community members, they need to see you learn out loud. So what I always do is I'll think about it. I'll have 3 spaces for my classrooms. I'll have my classroom hub, where all my information is held. Then I'll have my blog where I'm doing the same stuff I'm asking my kids or my students or my community. And then we have that class stream, Those are the 3 parts of the class that I have. And we're going to talk about each of those cornerstones because they are the framework for your teaching. Having those, you have to build up a strong foundation if you are to succeed. And that foundation for me, and some of them we're going to look at, is based on some tools. And I don't want to tell you what those tools are. I want to see if you guys can find them. But there are some key components to good online learning. Having clear learning goals, having outcomes, but also then providing a level of safety and respect to your students. Because I look at it this way. I want production-based learning that gets at agency. What was your passion? I don't want to start with what I want you to do. We've talked forever. What does the teacher want the student to do? I want to start with what does the student want to do? Because there's layers to agency. And that's what we're doing online. We're projecting our identities and having our identities projected back onto us. And when we talk about empowering people, what we mean is teaching them how to project their own identities by controlling their own domain. That's, to me, is what is critical. I teach in a way where there isn't a classroom, there's no Moodle, there's no big LMS. Our classroom is the wide open web, where this idea that I want you to have your own domain, and I will syndicate everything back to me, and I will push back to you. It is a push-pull relationship to teaching, and it's really the only way to get at the deep layers of deep transfer and deep meaning. This idea, when you think about it, I could have a literal learning goal. Maybe you're a developer, and it's like, I want you to learn an HTML tag. Well, that's simple. What I want to know is, can I get at that deep learning? What drives you to want to create stuff on the web? Because otherwise, you might just plop down and take a nap. And when I look at how we learn, we have to write the world. We have to look at it where we can't just sit down. Like, we have to take off the leash for our students. So much of learning has been about controlling the environment. We need to remove that leash, open them up, and empower them. Because we can't look at, the hive model is great. But my only problem with it, a hive, there's only one queen and a lot of drones. Yes, ma'am?
So I'm just going to say, I know what a hive is.
Yeah,
Everyone knows what
okay. A hive is the metaphor that I'm using right now from a beehive. The beehive being where they live.
Yeah.
But in Mozilla, hive is also like, if you think about the different parts of the garden, hive is just one part of the Mozilla Learning Garden, where it's a loose group of federated organizations in a city that are united by a mission. I'm just talking specifically about hive. That was more the metaphor that was picked. And you have to bring in that agent, that not just the agency, but the artistry of learning. That there is an art to teaching, and there is an art to learning. And what you have to bring in when you're looking at that kind of artwork in terms of hive thinking is, you know what? In our hives, everybody can be a queen. Even the loneliest of worker bees can someday be a queen. They have to be able to rise up, to fly to the top of the nest, and say, you know what? I'm going to go out and start my own hive. That's what we want. We want what I call self-programmable learners. It's a term, this idea that a bee knows what to do. They are just programmed to get a job done. And I don't want kids who know all the answers. I want kids to know how to ask the right questions in the right places to the right people. That's, to me, what self-programmable learning means. This idea that I can work together with a group towards a collective mission to change the world. And together, we can unite and work. And yeah, that does take some beekeeping. You have to really be able to focus that idea and play with this concept of stackable learning modules. So there is a plan. I do have a plan, and I'm going to share that with you today. So that was the only slide deck I'll do. I don't like slide decks, so I figured the best thing to do with slide decks is just not do your slides ahead of time. So that's what we were doing with the slide decks. And my name is Dr. McVeary. I'm a Greg's fine. I'm a contributor with Mozilla. I'm a college teacher, was a classroom teacher. Now I just have fun and play and teach the web. And let me just stop the slideshow here. 1 second.